When we usually think of the 90s in the NFL, we usually think of the Dallas Cowboys because A, they're the Dallas Cowboys, B, they won a couple of Super Bowls, and C, they were by far the most dominant team of the 90s in the NFL. However, one team that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about when they talk about the 90s and the NFL is the Buffalo Bills, as they made it to 4 straight Super Bowls, but unfortunately, they lost all of them, as you guys can see in the thumbnail. And today, that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. However, before you do get started, make sure you like the video if you guys did enjoy, as it really helps out the channel. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, as I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers, and a good percentage of you guys watching these videos are not subscribed, and it would mean a lot to me if we could reach 100 subscribers. So if you guys like this type of content and you're a fan of the NFL or the NBA, make sure you subscribe to the channel. So with all that being said, let's get started. Now, let's go back to the 80s to see how this team kind of came together. In the 80s, the Bills were not an amazing team, as they only made the playoffs once. However, at the end of the 80s, it would give Bills fans some hope, as in the 1988 season, they'd go 12-4. However, unfortunately for them, they would lose to the Bengals in the conference championship of that year. But hey, it was sure a start, with Jim Kelly throwing for more than 3,000 yards and 15 touchdowns, plus he did throw 17 interceptions on a completion rate of just 59.5%. However, rookie Thurman Thomas also showed some promise, as he ran for 881 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, averaging 4 yards an attempt, and he also received 208 yards. Plus, Andre Reed also had a very good year, as he received 968 yards and had 6 receiving touchdowns, averaging a 14 yards catch. The defensive side of the ball included Bruce Smith, who had 11 sacks and 3 forced fumbles, plus 56 tackles. But the 1989 season saw them regress to 9-7. They would lose in the first round to the Cleveland Browns. But hey, it was still progress, and they were getting to something. However, the 1990 season would be absolutely amazing for them, as they'd go 13-3. Jim Kelly had a great year. He was able to increase his completion percentage, and he cut down on his interceptions. Thurman Thomas also had a career year, rushing for 1,297 yards, 11 rushing touchdowns, averaging 5 yards a carry. And Andre Reed also had a very solid year, receiving 945 yards and 8 receiving touchdowns. They also had an unstoppable offense that featured no huddles and plenty of shotgun formations. In the divisional round, they'd beat the Dolphins in a high-scoring thriller, 44-34. And then came the conference championship, where they absolutely destroyed the Raiders at 51-3, as they picked them off 5 times and forced a completion percentage of just 42%. They made their very first Super Bowl, and finally, they were up against another fellow New York team in the Giants. They had guys like Phil Simms, Lawrence Taylor, Pepper Johnson. The Bills would lead the game 12-10 at half. But in the third quarter, the Giants scored a touchdown to put them up by 5. In the fourth, Thurman Thomas would punch in a 31-yard touchdown, giving them a lead. However, the Giants would kick a field goal that would put them up by 1. With 8 seconds left, Buffalo lined up for a 47-yarder, and this happened.
It is a 47-yard try by Scott Norwood to try to win the game for Buffalo. Lingner will snap it. Wright will hold it. Norwood will kick it from the right hash mark with 8 seconds left, and the Giants leading Buffalo 20-19. It's a 47-yard kick for the Bills. Norwood assumes the position. Lingner waits to snap it. We wait. There's a snap. There's a kick. It is up. It is no good. Norwood missed. 4 seconds left. The Giants have won Super Bowl 25 by the score of 20-19.
It was a heartbreaking loss for Bills fans. They were just 1 field goal away from winning their very first Super Bowl. However, there is always next year. And in 1991, Buffalo would have a very good year, as they'd go 13-3 yet again. Thurman Thomas would even win MVP that year, as he had rushed for more than 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns, averaging 5 yards a carry. Jim Kelly would also have a career year, tossing for nearly 4,000 yards and 33 touchdowns on a completion rate of 64%. Andre Reed would also have a career year, as he had received for more than 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. Plus, Bruce Smith had knee problems that year, and he only played 5 games. Yet they still went 13-3, and it was a very impressive run from Buffalo. Anyways, on to the playoffs. Buffalo would beat Kansas City 37-14 in the divisional round. In a very low-scoring slugfest next, they would beat Denver 10-7. This time, it was their time to avenge their Super Bowl loss. They'd be matched up by the then Washington Redskins, who went 14-2 in the regular season. However, this Super Bowl would go pretty disastrous for the Buffalo Bills, as Washington would have a 17-0 lead at halftime, and it would only be downhill from there, as they would lose the Super Bowl 24-37. That was just not a good loss from Buffalo, and it was just demoralizing. The following year, the Bills would regress to 11-5, and while it was a good record, it was not good enough to win the AFC East, as the Miami Dolphins would take the AFC East crown this time. Jim Kelly still passed for more than 3,000 yards, Thurman Thomas was still amazing, Andre Reed was very good, and hey, Bruce Smith stayed healthy for most of the year and had 14 sacks, and they'd be set to play the Houston Oilers. However, there was one problem. Jim Kelly would not play this game, as he got injured in week 17, and backup Frank Reich would be starting. The game started off horribly, as in the first half, Warren Moon would toss 4 touchdowns, and at halftime, they'd be up to 28-3. Yeah, I know, we're getting those Super Bowl 51 vibes, right? No, we're not getting Super Bowl 51 vibes, as the Oilers would pick them off and return it to the house, making it 35-3. At this point, it looked like the Bills' season was over, to the point where fans started leaving the arena, and it looked like Bills fans might as well just go to their bedroom and cry. However, the Bills would finally pull themselves together, as they would score 4 touchdowns in the third, making the score 31-35. In the fourth, Andre Reed would catch a 17-yard pass from Reich, and they'd finally take the lead, 38-35. However, Houston would make a field goal to tie it, but in overtime, Buffalo would make a 38-yarder to win the game. Houston, in epic Super Bowl 51 Falcons fashion, would blow a 35-3 lead, and this win was dubbed the comeback, and this win still remains the largest deficit a team has come back from. As of when I'm recording this, it still stands. But hey, the following week they'd quickly dispatch the Pittsburgh Steelers 24-3. Jim Kelly would be healthy for the AFC Championship game, and they would beat out the Miami Dolphins 29-10, going to their 3rd straight Super Bowl to face the Dallas Cowboys. This Super Bowl, as I showed up on the screen, would go way worse than the one against Washington, as they would lose 52-17. It was a very depressing loss for Bills fans, and they'd commit 9 turnovers in that game, and it just sucked for them overall. But hey, Bills fans, don't worry, you still got this play if you need a good laugh.
4th down and 6, and Reich fumbles, picked up by Leon Lett. Can he go all the way? It's a 60-yard run. He's being chased by BB. What's out? Did he get across? No.
The Bills, though, they had no choice but to move on, and in 1993, they'd still have a very good year, as they went 12-4. Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, and Bruce Smith, they all had good years. They'd beat the Raiders in the divisional round quickly. Then they'd beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, and here we are, the 4th straight, faced up against none other than the Dallas Cowboys. However, Buffalo would lose to Dallas yet again, this time 30-13. Don't worry, it wasn't as painful as the last one, but from here, things would just go downhill. Jim Kelly was starting to age, and in 1994, the Bills would only go 7-9. Kelly had a pretty bad year, throwing for more than 3,000 yards and 22 touchdowns, but also 17 interceptions. The following year, Buffalo would go 10-6 in 1995, and they would win the division, but they would lose in the divisional round. Not only that, but the 1995 expansion draft would cause them to lose key players like Don Beebe and Frank Reich. And before you know it, Jim Kelly would retire in 1996, and the roster would start to age, and before you knew it, the Bills' reign on the AFC would be over. So really, what went wrong for this Bills team? Well, there's a lot of factors really to explain what went wrong with this Bills team. For one thing, in the first game, Scott Norwood blew that kick. So that game, they definitely could have won that. The Washington game, well, that was just a good game by Washington. The next two Super Bowls, they were faced up against the 90s Cowboys, and they were the 90s Cowboys were just one of the best teams we've ever seen in NFL history. And the Bills may have lost 4 straight Super Bowls, but hey, they went to 4 straight, and there's no denying those teams were very good. Jim Kelly was a very good quarterback. Thurman Thomas is one of the most underrated and was a very good running back during his time. Andre Reed was a pretty solid receiver, and Bruce Smith is one of the best defensive players of all time. But hey, the Bills have a bright future with Josh Allen and the crew. Plus, of course, with all that being said, that's the end of the video. Please like the video if you guys did enjoy, as it really helps out the channel. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, as a good percentage of you guys watching these videos are not subscribed. And I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers, and it would be very much appreciated if we could reach 100 subscribers. So if you're a fan of the NFL or the NBA, well, click the subscribe button. And with all that being said, you guys, well,